Hello again, YouTube world. What's up? It's your girl, the Venusian Bull, and I'm back with another one of my Astrology 101 videos. I just want to first apologize for my first videos being kind of chopped up somewhere in the middle. I did put it in the description box, but I did not realize that for whatever reason I was not able to upload a video over 15 minutes. So when I was recording it, I didn't intend for it to be done in parts, so I apologize for that. I could only upload 15 minutes at a time, something about having to have a verified account on YouTube, which this is, but apparently they haven't gotten the memo yet. So we're probably going to have to do this in parts as well, so I'm going to be more cognizant of the time, and I might be talking a little bit more quickly to get through it. So this video is going to be about the planets and the rulerships and what planets rule which signs. So this is going to be very interesting because it's also kind of gonna kind of get into the fact that each person has obviously your sun sign, and that's based off of the day of your birth. For instance, my sun sign is Taurus. I was born on May 15th. If you were born October 1st, you're a Libra, just to give a different perspective in a different sign. But you also had a sign in each of the planets. Obviously, you had your rising sign, which was rising at the time of your birth, but you also had a sign in each planet. So we're going to go through all of the planets, including the luminaries planets, which are the sun and the moon, because I want to discuss which signs they rule. But if you didn't know all of the planets, I'm going to advise you. It is Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So we obviously don't use Earth because we are here on Earth. So Earth, we don't have any signs in Earth because, we are Earth. That's how it's looked at. But I want to see if I can get a picture of an actual natal chart so those of you who are really beginners about it can kind of see the makeup. Remember, I mentioned in the last video about the circle and the 12 houses. So you have your rising sign, which is on the first house cusp, and that starts off the wheel basically, and then you have a sign on each subsequent house cusps all the way up to the 12th house, and you have a sign in each of the planets. Now, there may be certain parts of your chart that may be more occupied than others, and there may be certain houses rather, that are not occupied at all. I'll get into that another time on how to read a natal chart, but I just kind of wanted to give that background. So I'm going to get into the planets and the rulerships. So first off, we have to start with the sun. And what better time to start with the sun than right now, with the sun being in Leo? And what sign does the sun rule? Leo, of course, because Libras are fun and vibrant and exuberant, and they're the life of the party, and they want to be center stage. They want to be the center of attention. It can maybe come off as a little arrogant, but Leos, they just want to have fun. You know what I'm saying? So that is the idea of the sun. It's like the brightest part in your chart, and obviously the sun in Leo compared to the sun in Scorpio is going to give a different vibe, obviously. But the sun rules Leo. It is exalted in Aries. So that also means that's a very, good place to be with, where the sun could be. And take these exaltations and planets and signs in the fall and detriment. We'll get into the meanings of that. But take it with a grain of salt, because even though the sun is a good place for Leo, and it's also a good place for Aries because that's where it's exalted, it could still have, its issues and things. But the sun is exalted in Aries because Aries is about the self, and the sun represents your ego. The sun represents your identity, what sets you apart, what makes you unique. So since Aries is like the first sign of the zodiac, that's why a lot of Aries can kind of be kind of about themselves and a little bit selfish. But the thing about Aries energy is that it's in their best interest a lot of times to be selfish, because it's difficult for them to be able to be of benefit to others if they don't help themselves first. Now, obviously, there are dark-sided Aries that are just uber selfish and don't care about anybody but themselves and things like that. So I'm not talking about that aspect of it. I'm kind of talking about the light-sided, just, some of the things that you kind of got to deal with to understand the sign more. So the sun is exalted in Aries, and it rules Leo. So it's exuberant, it's life. It's literally your life force. That's what the sun represents. So that's actually the reason why the sun is so very important in your chart. And I explained that in the last video, how you have to look at all of the different facets of your sun sign, because it's not just your sun, it's how your sun is interacting with other planets, it's the house that it's in, what sign, when you find out what house it's in, you see what planet is ruling that house and everything like that. Is real deep. And then if you get into synastry and putting charts together of two different people, then you really see how the sun is kind of acting in aspect to another person's moon, for instance, or Mercury or Saturn or something like that. So again, sun is very exuberant. It's your life force. It is how you see yourself, and ultimately it's like where you stand out from the crowd, like what makes you special, what makes you unique. And I'm kind of giving these off the dome. I'm not reading off no notes or any website or anything like that. Based off of my experience, this is what the sun represents. And in reference to Leo, since the sun rules Leo, Leo is akin to the 5th house in your chart. So the 5th house is similar to Leo, therefore it's similar to the sun. So the sun is a masculine energy, Leo is a masculine energy. The sun represents, creativity, where you express your individuality, entertainment, fun, dating, men. Leo also represents men. Now, I would say the sun doesn't necessarily represent children, but Leo in the 5th house do represent children. So it's a little bit different in terms of that, but the sun definitely represents, if you're a woman, it would represent your husband, or your significant other and things of that nature. So when you're looking at aspects and things like that and transits, you may want to think about that if you're a little bit further along in your astrological journey. But just to kind of equate a planet to a house, you have the sun akin to Leo, akin to the 5th house in the horoscope. So in a natal chart is also known as a horoscope, for those of you who don't know. A horoscope is not just when you read your little 3-sentence little paragraph about your one sun sign, just your particular sun sign. That's not a horoscope. When it says, today you're going to be lucky in love or something. No, that's not a horoscope. You got to get the full chart. And I will have the websites that I like to go to in the description box, as I did in the last video, so that you can view your own chart. Moving right along to the moon. Now, the moon is your... Oh, wait, before we move on to the moon, I have to talk about where the sun is in detriment and where it's in its fall. So we know that the sun rules Leo, so happy place for sun, and is exalted in Aries, so happy place for the sun as well. But since the sun rules Leo, that means that it is actually in its detriment when it's in Aquarius, because that's the opposite sign. And the reason for this is because Aquarius isn't necessarily about the individual, it's about the collective. So it's not really a place for you to shine. I mean, for lack of a better word, for you to shine brightly on your own, because the sun is about that individuality and Aquarius is about the collective working together for, a common ground and, usually a part of some type of a cause, you know what I'm saying? Or, humanitarian, some type of group, think of Aquarius as the group sign, okay? So Aquarius is all about groups, and Leo is about your identity. It's about you standing out. So that's the differentiation between the sun ruling Leo and the sun being in detriment in Aquarius. And the same kind of goes for the sun being exalted in Aries, because with the sun being exalted in Aries, it's in its fall in Libra. And the interesting thing about the term fall is that Libra actually starts the season of fall, just like Aries starts the season of spring. So when the sun is in its fall, that means that it's, the days are getting shorter, it's staying dark longer, and things like that. So the sun is, dying down a little bit there. And you think about Libra, like Aquarius, is about others, but it's more like partnerships, relationships. Libras have a very difficult time being that individual because they always need someone else to relate to and to kind of feed off of in order to get that individual sense of self. So it's really, really difficult for actually sun in Libras, especially if it may be badly aspected. But technically speaking, it's not the best place for the sun. Just thinking about what the sun represents and what Libra represents, it's not ideal. But that doesn't mean everybody is so many different things. I mean, your sun is going to be wherever it is. So it just really depends on all of the other factors in your chart if it's really going to adversely affect you, because you can be a sun in Leo and obviously the sun rules Leo, but you could still be like a total maniac or something. Same with sun in Aries. So again, take that with a grain of salt, but that's just the reasons why the sun is in detriment in Aquarius and why it's in the fall in Libra. So now we will move on to the moon. Okay, so the moon is about, your emotions. It's about your intuition. It's all about feeling. The moon is feminine energy. Like I mentioned, the sun is masculine energy. The moon is feminine energy. And it doesn't mean that, men don't have a moon sign, because everybody has a moon sign and everything like that. It's just expresses itself more in a receptive way than the sun does. Just like certain signs are feminine signs and certain signs are masculine signs. It really just means that masculine signs project outward, feminine signs are receptive and they project inward. It's not like a man-woman thing per se. It's just an energy. So think about that when you think about the signs and the planets. It's an energy. So, for the men listening and be like, I'm not all emotional, whatever. First of all, you're probably, if you're saying that, one of the most emotional signs, but I digress. But anyway, it's about the energy. So remember, energy, energy, energy. So with the moon, it represents your instincts. It represents your emotions, really your like emotional reactions to things. A lot of times, people may not necessarily see that moon sign part of you unless they really get to know you. Unless you have a really like vivacious moon that like can't keep it in a can, or it's in a very like social house, or a house where is meant like for the public or something like that. So that's definitely important to keep in mind. But also the moon, as the sun rules men, actually the sun also rules the father. The moon rules the mother. The moon is the nurturer. The moon is also represents the womb for a woman. It just represents kind of those feminine, receptive energies. And I think that that's why, and we are approaching an eclipse, and there was a solar eclipse in Cancer a few weeks ago, and then tomorrow, July 27th, it's going to be a total lunar eclipse in Aquarius. It is going to be big, y'all. I'm already starting to feel the effects, and it's Mercury retrograde today, and it's still Mars retrograde. We about to be going through it up in the cosmic space. Anyway, so yeah, that's why these eclipses and things like that are so intense, because they're involving the moon. The moon is intense because it's your emotions and things like that. It's your natural instinct, your natural reaction to things and things like that. So the moon, speaking of Cancer, as I mentioned, there was an eclipse in Cancer a few weeks ago. The moon rules Cancer. No brainer, right? Because Cancer is, an emotional, sensitive, intuitive, receptive sign. It's nurturing, it's mothering, you know what I'm saying? It's, very warm and, cozy. So that's, it rules the moon. Now, again, take this whole rulership thing with a grain of salt, because a lot of people can have a moon in Cancer, and we know that Cancers, that energy can be very moody. It can be very all over the place because it's driven by emotions. So Cancer moons can be kind of crazy. So I'm going to stop this.